The incredibly popular Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie film from 2005 is now an Amazon Prime original TV show, and a second season is on the way. Let's talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for the Amazon Prime series Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This is, of course, based on the very popular film. And this time around, we have Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, who you may know from Pen 15, in the Mr. and Mrs. Smith roles. We'll launch into the specifics of this program and my thoughts on it in just a second. But first, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got movie and TV reviews on the channel, and just about every day something new goes up. So there's always a lot to check out. We've got playlists on the homepage to kind of streamline your experience. And check out my Letterboxd profile in the description below as well. You can follow me on the Letterboxd website as well and keep track of all the movies I've been watching. But please also consider subscribing, liking this video, and commenting below. All that stuff, of course, does help the channel out as well. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like I mentioned up top, a second season has already been greenlit, and so that is currently in the works. But this is an idea that Donald Glover sort of had in the throes of COVID, and he came to his showrunner and I guess sometime partner in the business, Francesca Sloan, and he said, hey, what about doing a Mr. and Mrs. Smith TV show? And so for a couple of years during COVID, they sort of worked on it and figured out, what the best approach would be, etc. And then they got Maya Erskine on board. And I only know her from Pen 15. I'm sure she's done other things. And that is an excellent show. She was great in it. But it's weird because she plays a 13-year-old girl in that show, and of course she's in her 30s in real life. So this is the first time I've seen her doing a grown-up type of role. It's very, very different, but I have not seen the movie, and I think maybe that bodes well for me with this show, because I'm not in my mind comparing it. Oh, this person isn't doing exactly what Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie was doing, in their movie. And of course, with the TV series, you have more time to expand on these characters. In fact, so each episode is a different mission that they're on. However, the bulk of the first 10 minutes or so of each of these episodes, I've only seen the first three, so maybe it's different for the latter half, but it's more figuring out their relationship and who they are to each other. And yes, they're in this prearranged kind of fake marriage from the government, but are they sort of falling for each other at the same time? I think if I've never even seen the movie and I know the answer to that question, so it will be no surprise here. But a bunch of that time in the beginning of these episodes is sort of taken up by seeing how they interact with each other and where they are in their mindset with these missions and the agency and each other. And then we get to whatever the mission is for that particular episode. And this show is full of guest stars. Each episode seems to have at least somebody that you'll know from something else, including Sarah Paulson, Parker Posey, Alexander Skarsgård, Paul Dano, John Turturro, Ron Perlman. So there's a lot of star power here. And look, this is something that was used to great effect with Natasha Lyonne's Poker Face. It's a show I bring up often because I think it was a brilliant, brilliant first season over on Peacock last year. And same kind of thing. Each episode was a different kind of thing that she was on, different person she was tailing or whatever. And for the most part, they were played by somebody famous. So this sort of takes a similar concept. And look, it's far from new. I mean, back in the 60s when we had shows like this, a lot of times, the main antagonist is somebody that at that time was famous. If you watched some of those shows now, like Perry Mason or whatever, I probably might not recognize a lot of them. But back in the 60s, many of them on shows like that and, Columbo and other things were at the time, famous movie stars or TV stars. So, so here that they employ that to great use. But really, what is going to make this show live or die is the chemistry between the two leads, Glover and Erskine. And boy, they have it to spare. I mean, they are both very, very charming. Donald Glover, we've seen in so many different facets, right? Because, we saw more broad comedy with Community, and then more of the, drama and social activism, I guess, of Atlanta. And then, of course, he's got his singing career as well, and he's done, some movie roles like Lando Calrissian in the Solo movie. So, we've seen him do a lot of different things, and all of them well. So it's no surprise, that he is very adept at this. It's a little bit really of a more low-key performance in some instances than we've seen from him. And then Maya Erskine, like I mentioned, this is completely different from Pen 15. But it follows the same general premise of the movie, which is, these two people who don't really have anything going on in their own lives, detached kind of from family, don't really have many friends, enter into this sort of secret, not society, but the secret, mission-based field of the government, where they have to basically, assume new identities and, never talk to any of their past people before. And so two people like these, have no problem. But as we sort of peel the layers back episode by episode, we learn a little bit more about why that is, or what their family history is, or etc. And I like the way that that is sort of brought to us, because they're not really stopping during the mission and saying like, oh, hey, what was your relationship with your father, necessarily. Although in the first episode, they are sort of watching this woman at the cafe, and while they're kind of waiting for her to sort of make a move, they are kind of getting to know each other. So I guess there's a little bit of that as well. And another thing I liked about specifically the first episode, not maybe as much with the subsequent ones that I've seen, but in the first episode, they never actually explain why they were, faced with the particular mission, what it meant, and what happened. And I don't want to get into specifics there for spoilers, but at the end, we, the audience, don't know exactly really why this person got targeted and what was happening, and they don't either. The two characters at the end even were like, well, don't you wonder like why that happened? And the other one's like, no, not really. It just, that was the mission and we completed it, and there you go. So I think it's a very, very well put together show. Each episode is except for the pilot, is a tight like 45 minutes. So same as it would be on a network. And this could be a network show as well. I don't remember really any like swearing or anything, although the second episode gets a little weird sexually, I guess, with John Turturro's character. But in any event, I think this is a pretty well put together show. I'm excited to see more missions from these guys in season 2. I'm glad this was a hit for Amazon. I leave Mr. and Mrs. Smith with a B+, and you can check out the entirety of season 1. I think it's 7 episodes. That is on Amazon Prime now. All right, thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It, and I'll see you next time. Bye.